When you hear the word intelligence, your mind probably jumps straight to spies, secret missions, all that movie stuff. But what if I told you it's actually a highly structured process? It's like a machine, really, and it's built for one single purpose to make sense of an incredibly complex world. So today, we're going to pull back the curtain on this intelligence machine and figure out how its gears turn to help us, well, to help us be less wrong.
I mean, just think about it for a second. Every single day, leaders have to make these massive, high stakes decisions with information that's incomplete and a lot of the time totally contradictory. We're talking about a military commander on the battlefield, a president in the situation room, even a CEO launching a new product. So, how on earth do they navigate that fog of uncertainty to make the right call? Well, that question right there, that is the fundamental problem the entire intelligence world exists to solve.
And the answer, the thing they're looking for, is something called finished intelligence. Now, this is not just raw data or some random piece of gossip. Nope. This is the final, polished product of a really rigorous system. A system that's designed to take all that messy, raw info, analyze the heck out of it, and turn it into something clear enough to actually base a critical decision on. It's the tool that cuts through all the noise.
Okay, so this is the crucial point. Intelligence isn't about predicting the future with some kind of crystal ball. That's not the job. The real job is to systematically manage and, hopefully, reduce uncertainty. It provides what are often called estimates. And that word is important because it acknowledges, hey, we can't know everything. But what we can do is make a very educated, well-reasoned judgment about what is most likely to be true.
And this whole effort to reduce uncertainty, it's not a one-size-fits-all kind of deal. It really splits into two main streams. On one hand, you've got strategic intelligence. That's the long game thinking, the big picture stuff that helps a nation decide its grand strategy over years or decades. And then you have operational intelligence, which is all about the here and now. It's about supporting decisions that have to be made on the ground, like today. So how do you actually get from some vague question a leader has all the way to a finished, decision-ready report? Well, you use a machine, a process. And in the intelligence world, that machine is known as the intelligence cycle. It's a really elegant, logical framework for turning total chaos into clarity. This cycle has 6 distinct phases, and each one builds on the last. It all kicks off with planning and direction, which is really just about figuring out what are the right questions to even ask. Then you get to collection, which is the actual gathering of raw information. After that, processing makes all that data usable before it lands in analysis. This is where the real magic happens, turning bits of information into actual insight. From there, it's disseminated or sent out to the decision makers. And then crucially, the whole loop closes with evaluation, which is the feedback that makes the entire process smarter the next time around. And the key thing to get here is that it's not a straight line. It's a continuous loop. A leader asks a question, the cycle spins up to produce an answer, and then the feedback on that answer helps sharpen the next set of questions. It's a system that's literally designed for constant learning and improvement. Okay, so let's talk about the fuel for this machine, the raw information. The collection phase, this is where all that classic spycraft you see in movies comes into play. But believe me, it is so much more than that. We are talking about everything from human sources on the ground to high-tech satellites way up in space. This whole world of information gathering is broken down into specific disciplines, and they're often just called the INTS. We're going to take a quick look at 4 of the big ones. HUMINT, which comes from people, SIGINT, from signals, IMINT or GEOINT, which is basically pictures, and OSINT, from public open sources. Now, each one of these has its own unique strengths, but also some really critical vulnerabilities. HUMINT, for example, a spy on the ground, that can tell you why someone is doing something, what their actual intent is. But your source could be lying to you. On the other hand, a satellite photo, that's IMINT. It gives you hard, objective proof of what's on the ground. But it can't see through clouds, and it definitely can't tell you what people are thinking inside a building. And that's why no single source ever tells the whole story. The goal is always all-source fusion. You have to combine them all to get as close to the truth as you possibly can. All right, so you've got a perfect process. You have the best data coming in from all your sources. The machine should be flawless, right? Wrong. Because right at the heart of this machine, there's a critical vulnerability. It's the most complex, most unpredictable component of all, the human brain. The first major blind spot we have to talk about is a bias called mirror imaging.
This is the incredibly dangerous assumption that your opponent, your adversary, sees the world the exact same way you do, that they share your values, that they have your same definition of what is rational. It's kind of like assuming your chess opponent is going to make the move you would make instead of the move that actually benefits them.
This quote, wow, this gets right to the heart of it. Back in World War II, Allied commanders were looking at Germany's really desperate situation, and from their point of view, they thought any huge attack would be completely irrational. So they just projected their own military logic right onto the enemy.
And the result of that thinking? They were caught completely, totally by surprise by the massive German attack that became the Battle of the Bulge. They just failed to account for a different set of political and ideological things driving their enemy, and it led to a catastrophic intelligence failure. That right there is mirror imaging in action.
Okay, the second critical bias is one you've probably heard of, confirmation bias. This is our natural, very human tendency to cherry-pick information that supports what we already believe, and at the same time, we dismiss or downplay or just plain ignore any evidence that challenges our views. It makes us feel like we're right, even when we're steering directly toward a cliff.
So let's go back to the Battle of the Bulge again. The Allies were generally operating under this feeling of optimism, this belief that Germany was on the verge of total collapse. So when reports started coming in showing massive German vehicle movements, they were just dismissed as routine. The data was right there, but confirmation bias acted like a filter, blocking out the warning signs and just reinforcing that original flawed belief.
So if the human mind is the problem, is the whole machine just doomed to fail? Not quite. The intelligence community realized over time that it had to build safeguards directly into its process. It had to create a discipline of analysis that was designed specifically to fight these natural human flaws.
I mean, you can have all these satellites and supercomputers in the entire world, but they are not going to save you from bad judgment. The real solution to these cognitive biases isn't better technology. It's a more rigorous, more structured, and more self-aware way of thinking. And to get there, analysts use a whole toolkit of methods. Things like structured analytic techniques literally force them to break their thinking down into logical, transparent steps, which helps prevent those big, intuitive leaps. Something called analysis of competing hypotheses makes them argue against their own favorite theory. It forces them to seriously consider other possibilities instead of just trying to prove themselves right. And then you have processes like peer review and customer feedback that build in accountability. It is a system designed to challenge assumptions at every single turn. So when you look at it, the intelligence process is really a story about the struggle for clarity in a deeply uncertain world. It's a machine that's built not just to understand our adversaries, but maybe more importantly, to understand and overcome the biases we have inside ourselves. The best analysts, they know their biggest enemy is their own certainty. So the real question that leaves us with is, how do you fight that enemy inside your own head? How do you challenge your certainty?